The lifestyle in France, when you're young, you go to school a lot. High school, the really important thing is the baccalauréat. You have to pass that. You have to obtain that. But you have to do a lot of studying to be able to pass that test, to get that. And it's really important. In France, you kind of have to know what you want to do in life before you leave high school. Whereas in America, you can kind of decide that when you're in college and going to university. In America, you can kind of decide, or you can kind of put off deciding what you want to do in life until even after university and do all your generals and such. But in France, you got to know what you want to do before you leave high school so that you can go to the right university and to a specialized university. And so high school studies are really important, and kids are, pretty immersed in their studies, but definitely find a lot of time to have fun and goof off. Yeah. Then they go to university and specialize in what they want to do. And that's kind of a party lifestyle, sort of kind of. Fridays and Saturdays were always really hectic at night, getting home and such. For the most part, you're going to live in an apartment. Apartments are way more common in France than here, where everybody has a house and a car. In France, everybody might have an apartment and they might have a car. A lot of people don't, because public transportation is just so well done in France, and the cities are so much less spread out than in America that you can basically walk anywhere you want, or take the bus anywhere you want, or the tram, or if it's available, the metro, or the subway, whatever you want to call it. Monetary system, they use the euro. In Switzerland, they use the Swiss franc. And in Switzerland, the place I served wasn't too big. It was just a village, really, so the public transportation wasn't... we rarely used the public transportation. We always walked everywhere in Switzerland. And the lifestyle in Switzerland is so much more laid back. That's the impression I got, is it's a lot more laid back. The Swiss government definitely treats their citizens pretty well. A lot more taxes in Switzerland, though. But the benefits in both France and Switzerland when you get older are excellent. Really, really good. Really, really good. We never really had many problems with crime or anything like that. In France, probably the most dangerous city is Marseille, down south. It's a port city. It's famous for being kind of a city of crime. And missionaries have to be a little more careful when they're serving there. President Rouhani usually picked those missionaries, and they were usually bigger. No sister missionaries there. But that was about the only problem city we ever had. There are two main religions, I would say, in the south of France, and that's Catholicism and Islam. There are a lot of Muslims in France. And we never really had any problems, actually. A lot of the Muslims that we would meet were really nice people, really respectable. But the young kids that we'd meet, the teenagers and such, both Catholic and Muslim, were always pretty teenagery. I don't want to say delinquent somewhere, but you know how teenagers get. They mellow when they get a little bit older and such. But it's about the only problems we'd ever have was teenagers making fun of us or occasionally throwing stuff at us. And, no big problems at all, actually. So depending on the region you're in France, and even in Switzerland, the architecture is different. But in France and Switzerland, it's kind of the same. The housing, mostly apartments. The younger you are, the more likely you're going to be in an apartment. It's only when you're older and have a little bit more money that you're going to have a house to yourself. And even then, it's going to be a pretty small house, just what you need, not huge. Gardens are really popular in both Switzerland and France. If you have a garden, it's great. You'll probably grow your own tomatoes, your own vegetables, your own salad and such. And I always loved going to members' houses who grew their own vegetables. It was always really good. Well, the architecture is different from region to region, like I said. In Bordeaux, the stone that they use is different than from what they use in Toulouse, for example. In Toulouse, it's famous for being the pink city, literally translated. They use a lot of red brick. So in Toulouse, they use a lot of red brick, and the architecture is different. Buildings are built differently. It's just beautiful. All of the red brick that you see throughout the city, and it's even used in some of the cathedrals. One of them is built entirely out of brick, and it's beautiful. Whereas in Bordeaux, for example, they don't use brick. They use slabs of light colored rock. You know, it's different, and their architecture and the way their buildings are built is different as well. You just have to take a walk in downtown Bordeaux and then take a walk in downtown Toulouse, and it would be obvious. You could totally see the difference. If you live in the city, your lifestyle is pretty much going to be the same as any other city dweller. But if you live in the country, you're probably going to be more of a farmer or cultivator, something like that. And that lifestyle is pretty different. You definitely do a lot of work with your own hands. Really everything in Europe is expensive. In France, it's pretty expensive. Cost of living is definitely higher if you're in the city, I would like to say, than if you're in the country. But if you're in the country as well, you need to consider the fact that, well, I mean, you need a bunch of different supplies. Sometimes you'll have a tractor. You might need fertilizer, different soil. So in all, I couldn't really tell you which was more expensive because I'm not sure of the costs of living in the country, really. But I know that living in the city is expensive. Cost of living, when we had to go buy food, we would usually budget 50 euros a week. And we got a little more than other missions did just because the cost of living and the cost of food was a little bit higher. But on average, we'd spend 40 to 50 euros a week in groceries, and that's the equivalent of about 60, 65, 70 bucks a week just on groceries.